ask for help. Like there's no harm in asking for help, whether that's you or me or someone else, someone that you trust. I think speeding up. We're familiar in entrepreneur world of scarcity or abundance mindset. I personally believe that speeding up only leads to scarcity. Success is just over the next hill. Except when we get there, it wasn't what we really wanted in the first place. So I think the deeper issue is we never really look at what we really want. It's often rooted in the expectations that other people have put on us. Well, someone will tell me what I want, and I'll just do that. But when I have to make that decision myself, I find it very hard to answer that question myself. The freeing about being able to tell your story to someone that just listens to it and hears you out, and you can start creating the space to sort through what's next.
This is where the journey of expanding empires in real estate, small business, and life unfolds. Join me for insightful conversations with industry leaders uncovering the strategies from overcoming setbacks to celebrating triumphs in business and life. This podcast is your guide through the roller coaster of entrepreneurial life. Whether you're navigating the challenges of small business or conquering the world of real estate, here is your empire. Welcome to Empire Expanders.
All right, welcome everybody out there in Empire Expanders world. Today we have Marty with me. Marty is my former coach of the last 6 months of the Get Out of Your Own Way coaching group. He is the spiritual, mental integrator side of that business. And I know integrator, mental, and spiritual don't seem to go together in your world. For most of us, it's like, that doesn't fit. This dude makes it happen. He coaches people and helps them get out of their own way, as the business says, as he did me, because in business, it's not only just business, it's about yourself also. So he helps us grow and get past those new things, find our future self, have those breakthroughs, have those breakdowns, all the things we need to have. And awesome, also, leader of meditation. Love that. So, Marty, come on in. Let's have a talk, man.
Well, thanks for having me.
Hey, dude, how's it going?
It's going well.
Yeah. You got your nice background going there. New house down in Arizona.
Yes. Let's see. It's 97 degrees. It's cool today. 97.
It's like 100 here. In Massachusetts. I am dying in my little office here. I need an AC.
I was talking to a mutual friend of ours this morning, and she was telling me that it was hot and humid. And at least here it's just hot. It's not humid.
Is she kind of between you and me in the geography section of the world?
Yes.
I know this friend. I also spoke to her this morning. We were talking about dreams. As you and it's either you or her that have to hear about my dreams. That's it.
Yeah, that wasn't part of my introduction. That I also like helping people with dreams.
Yes. Yeah, that wasn't part of your introduction. That's the new thing I've learned about you. And I'll be glad to go down that path in this podcast because that's a new hobby, not a hobby. I don't know how to put it. It's a new focus of mine because I love how it helps me get out of my brain and into my subconscious heart and soul.
And I never read a book on it. I learned it from other people the whole way through.
I need to get some Marty knowledge on that one at some point in time.
Yeah,
once I stop traveling.
Stuff.
What's that?
It's good stuff.
Yeah. I've gained a lot of insight from it. Once I realized, I learned to slow down, which you were a large help in. How many times you guys tell me to slow down? I think you guys kicked me out of the coaching call once. You're like, you know what? Go away. You're done for the day.
I was going to say, I don't know why we think the answer is to speed up, other than I think we're just conditioned to believe that. It does not help at all. Slow down.
What did you say at one point? Like, you relate to driving the car. Like, if you can't see the signs on the side of the road if you're going too fast. I love that because it stuck with me. Same thing in life.
Yep. Yeah.
So, Mark, how did you get into this world of helping people like myself?
I'll add one thing to that because I think speeding up, and we're familiar in entrepreneur world of scarcity or abundance mindset. I personally believe that speeding up only leads to scarcity. The only way you could get to a place of abundance is to really slow down and recognize what is versus because when we get in scarcity and we speed up, it's never enough. We got to get there. We're moving. We're totally missing the journey along the way. And I think it's only in slowing down that abundance is always there. We just lose sight of it because we get caught in our heads and kind of get in that frantic state when we're on, like using your example of driving, we're on the highway flying by because we're late. We totally miss the journey of getting there.
Isn't the journey where the fun is too?
Yeah, exactly.
They talk about that in martial arts. Like getting the black belt's not the goal; it's the journey getting to the black belt. From white
Exactly.
belt to black.
Exactly.
And all of us decide that let's get to the end. And if you're an entrepreneur like me, there's no end. Once you at the end, you look up and find that other hill. Aaron did that at one of the things I went to, where he showed like you have this mountain, yet there's another one. When is it enough?
The podcast him and I just did that was released today is about that. And about kind of getting that point, it's like, all right, well, I've rushed to get here. Now what? Now what do I do? And you totally miss the journey of getting there.
And I did a lot of that. The rush. Must get to financial freedom. Must get to the end.
Yep.
And I mentioned a few times in the podcast, Cody said it, was people don't retire from the life they love, which is now like instilled in me from.
I've used that line a few times in our own correspondence with Get Out of Your Own Way.
It's such a nice line.
Yeah,
you guys have told us different versions of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's completely opposite if you think about the death march to financial freedom. I'm done. Okay, now what?
Now what? Right.
Yeah. And also, what did it cost me along the way?
Correct. I found that to be true with a lot of people, that they're so determined to get there that they've kind of destroyed relationships along the way and are lonely, and they're like their whole personal life is a mess. But they got that success that they wanted in their business.
Thinking about it, you have 4 circles, right? That you teach. I got my business right. Nothing else went right. I'm financially free. If I'm thinking in terms of school, I got an F because I got 25% right of the entire thing. Didn't think of that before. That scares me. Got 1 out of 4 right. We think that one's weighted more for some reason.
Yeah.
Any idea why we do that? Why do we think the financial one has so much more weight on it than the rest of our lives?
Financial/career, I think.
Yeah.
Tied. Well, when you mentioned school, what I'm thinking of, like even when we're in high school, college, like it's all about getting to the next thing, about getting to the workforce, and then we get there, and this is what I have to do the rest of my life. So I think that there's a deeper mindset that it's always about success is just over the next hill. Except when we get there, it wasn't what we really wanted in the first place. So I think that the deeper issue is we never really look at what we really want. It's often rooted in the expectations that other people have put on us in our lives. And until we can kind of sift through those expectations, it's hard to really find that deeper want that you have.
So sometimes our wants, our expectations is based on societal things that put upon us that we've ingrained in ourselves.
Or family or school or whatever it is, they're often put on us.
Actually, I just watched your short on this before this podcast. You were talking about this. The word want is a very powerful word. What makes that word so powerful?
I find it extremely difficult to even answer the question what I want. Again, because I think so many of us grew up with this idea that, well, someone will tell me what I want and I'll just do that. But when I have to make that decision myself, I find it very hard to answer that question myself without a whole lot of writing and journaling and reflecting, because it's always been done for me, and then it makes it hard to what that is, to identify what that is.
Yeah, I'm up to that now with me designing what's next. as Empire Expanders and the coaching or community or how I impact people. And I'm sitting, I'm journaling. It's been a while now that I've been trying to figure this out. I'm trying to figure out through feel, not head, as everybody knows with this podcast and listening to me. And it is very different. And I try to figure out what I want. This was happening last night, actually. I was meditating last night before bed. And it started to feel, all of a sudden, I go straight back in my head, like, how does it monetize? How does this work? Go away, head. Back to feel. Back to head. No, stop that. And it's weird. It's like a muscle I have to now develop because
Yeah.
I've developed the muscle of when I think of something automatically, it runs through an algorithm in my head, but it's wrong for the new me. It's not wrong. It's wrong for the new me.
Yeah, I think it's a necessary piece. I've had this conversation with many clients. It's a necessary piece, but for many of us, myself included, we've trained our heads to have all the answers. And can we learn to lead with our heart and let the head follow rather than vice versa? It, but your image of having to work this new muscle, I think that's what it really comes down to. I've only done it one way for so long, and now I'm trying to almost put the brakes on one way and learn a new way. It's hard. Meditation and stuff like that will help that process along, but your head's going to automatically click back in because that's where you're good at it.
Yeah, I had to audibly basically tell myself, head, go
Yeah.
away.
Like, knock it off.
Yeah, if I was in the room, they'd be like, what is this guy with his eyes closed doing right now? Is he talking to sleep? What is going on? Because it just clicks in like it's a natural instinct because, like you said, I've developed that muscle.
Yep.
That to analyze and figure out how do I get from A to Z, not unknown what to one like you guys teach.
Even though this isn't always the question, I kind of try to put in the back of my brain who not how, that book Who Not How. It's not even always about the who, it's just not how at the moment. I don't have to ask the question how at the moment, but I'm really good at asking the question and answering the question how. But I have to be mindful there's a question that comes before that.
That's good. How was an evil word to me last night because that's what happened. That's the first thing the brain kicks in at.
Yep.
It's like that for me last night when I was doing this. It was about Empire Expanders. It was the word how was a trigger word. For some reason, that floated through my head, and then explosion was a catalyst of this and this and monetize and this and how does this work and how does this work? And I was like, well, what happened?
And it becomes easy to talk yourself out of it because it's like, well, forget that's way too much work without ever allowing the idea to grow and expand in the first place.
And that's what our friend you were talking this morning does to me all the time. She's like, slow down, let it happen. And she's been wonderful about that.
And I know I have to do that when I work with Aaron. When him and I are sitting down to do vision stuff, I have to be very intentional about not asking the how question and just let it happen otherwise. Because when we're talking vision, we don't have to know how. We just have to explore what that looks like.
That's hard for a lot of people. I have to write another vision soon.
It's hard for me.
Yeah. The vision for me, vision has to be feelings. You have to feel a vision. You don't have to a vision. The first time I wrote a vision, it was a business plan, basically, just written in better words.
Yep.
Not bullet point.
Yep.
But it's hard to go, especially when you have numbers in there. When you're talking about like I'm gonna, be financially free, and somebody asks, what does that mean to you? And like, well, it means I don't really put numbers anymore, but it means I got a couple $1 million in businesses, whatever it is, and then you're like, okay. Then you start backing into it. Okay, how many clients do I need a year to get there? How many this? How many that? What do I do here? Then you turn yourself into a business plan. Especially you guys vision about the business. Or if you're visioning about the business, it's even harder. I'm doing about my life with a business involved in
it. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Sometimes life is even harder than business, I think.
True.
Because I think it's a little easier to separate yourself from the business. You can't separate from yourself.
No, you can try.
Yeah, and then we'll find you a therapist because you're living two different lives.
Yeah, then you come back eventually, or like you can I guess you can separate yourself from your true self, like with
Yeah,
putting a barrier in between yourself. I know that one.
yeah, I joke about it, but yeah, we get driven by our ego, and then we lose sight of who we really are.
Yeah, that's big. My journey is reconnecting right now. So when you,
Yeah,
I
that was my been my story as well.
think that's why we get along so well. I'm starting along the path. I'm like, you're way up there, Marty. Can we talk? You can't come back a little bit? Like, slow down.
Yeah, we might only be like 50 feet. I might be 50 feet ahead.
I
Who knows?
can't. I can't. I can't run meditations yet.
Ah, good old meditation.
Yeah. That speaking of muscles, right? That's definitely a muscle. I couldn't sit down for like 2 seconds before, and now, like on average, it's about a 15-minute meditation. When I do a meditation,
Nice.
sometimes longer, and like we talked about it, the levels you can get to and clarity and just feeling and seeing things is nice. But a lot of us, me included in the beginning, was like you'd sit down for a couple minutes and be like, this ain't working, out.
Yeah,
Or you'd be running a to-do list in your head.
yeah, and that it's okay for all that stuff to be happening while you're meditating. Just don't stop meditating.
Yeah. I think in the beginning it's enough to stay still.
Yeah,
And then later it's clearing your mind. Well, not clearing your mind, but letting the thoughts come and go.
yep.
Like it's here, push it away. Thank you for being here. Um,
Yeah,
that's what it's been.
I still think it's more about just kind of creating a little bit of space. I don't know if we ever get much more than a little bit of space where I can hear and see a little bit differently in the world, and gives me the place to respond rather than react to everything that happens, which again we're really good at doing, reacting to everything. But that rarely gets us what we want.
Yeah, then well that's when our life's running us instead of us running our life. We're just reacting to
Right.
everything, putting out fires.
Correct.
And my morning time now that has meditation or sitting outside by myself or running and stuff like that has really helped my day with staying calm and anxiety and just reacting viscerally to some things where it's like something hits you and you're like, roar. But you're like, okay, I'm good. But it was hard in the beginning. And I think some people put too much pressure on themselves to be like, why can't I be great at meditating right now?
Yes. When it is a lifelong. I've been doing it on more than 24 years, I guess, at this point. And I think it's just something you have to stick with. It just can't be measured like everything else. Like there's no data to it in like there is in business.
And that's really hard for us mind people
Yeah.
because you're like, how good did I meditate? It's really hard to talk about.
Yeah, because there is like what a good versus what? Like are you comparing it to what someone else did?
Yeah. Let's have a meditate off. You versus me. Let's go.
Who
One
could
on one.
who could stay quiet the longest?
Not me. Some
What do you find in your community? Like, what do you think are the biggest issues that people face in your community?
going inwards. Not the ability not to not the ability. The being scared to reach out because we feel that we're not we're sad. We don't aren't happy with our lives anymore. Our business that we liked or our life that we liked isn't there anymore. We don't know when we went wrong. We don't know when it happened, but we don't know how to fix it. We don't want to reach out because we don't want to feel like we're failures because everyone around us looks like they're succeeding.
Yeah,
But the real thought is everyone around us is succeeding, right? They're all doing fine. So I can't reach out to them. I can't show them I'm not doing fine. Like, why is everybody else doing fine? I can't be the one failure around the area, even though if you ask the question, they're all in the same boat where they're having trouble too. So I think the biggest problem is opening up. And because we all that stuff festers and just kills you, as you saw when you coached me with 6 months. So getting out of that shell is our biggest problem.
yeah, yeah. I'm thinking of my own story. As I was a priest for 15 years, and when I was nearing the end of that time, It was January 2019. Like by the beginning of January, I kind of knew like, all right, I'm gonna need to take a break. It still took me about 3 weeks from that point to finally ask for help. So all that time goes by where I don't I guess I would assume it's fear more than anything. Fear gets in the way of us asking for help because we don't know what's on the other side of it. I think back now, like 3 weeks is a long time to wait when I felt like I couldn't breathe, like I felt like I couldn't do this anymore. So that yeah, I don't know why it's so hard for us to ask for help.
It's a lot of weight too, and that weight compounds by
Even
day,
more
week,
so
month, year. What do you say, Marty?
so maybe even more so for men.
Yeah, it could be based on the upbringing. Um, there was the idealist man upbringing of you shouldn't tell your feelings, you shouldn't reach outside, you shouldn't cry, you're a strong mountain of a man. I'm glad that's changing because that's a great way to just bottle everything up
Right.
and
It's a good way to explode.
or turn to vices. I drank heavily for many years, and
Yeah.
that helped me numb myself.
Yep.
And that's one of the vices. That's one of the things that happens with people where they're feeling that weight and things like that. They can't reach out because that holds everything back. And as you continue to numb, you think you feel fine, but what you really are still bottling, and the bottle is compressing and compressing and compressing inside of you.
Yep.
And when I stopped the vices that I have, the numbing at the rate I was numbing, then it hit me hard.
Because you finally were able to feel it
Yeah, it's good. It's good to hit 10 years of feelings.
at one time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we numb it and we suffer in silence.
Hmm.
It's a lonely place to be.
Yep, and we perpetuate it. And I wish we could find the root. Right? I'm sure there's psychologists and stuff that know out there, but for me, not a psychologist. But why do we always turn inwards when we should be turning outwards? Ego, pride, fear of being outcast,
Yep.
our ego saying, I can do this,
Yep.
push through, I can grind.
Yep.
I forgot which one it is, but you have one of your ways you get in the way of yourself that's coming in my mind right now. I forgot which one it is that actually
What
should
was the
speak to you.
exile one? You mentioned exile.
Exile, okay. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking, because that was a fear of mine, right?
Yeah.
You change, you may be exiled from the life you knew, the people you knew, and stuff like that, or
For
you may
me
be exiled from your circles.
it was also I felt like I was letting people down. Like I don't even know if I was aware of the exile piece, although shortly thereafter that was very much a part of it. I'm like I'm letting all these people down that I'm responsible for, and for me that was really hard in that moment.
Was there a piece of letting yourself down too?
Oh, most likely, yeah. Yeah, at that point, I felt like I was failing.
Especially since most people in that profession, like, this is my mission in life,
Right.
right? And
Yep.
it had to be a very interesting time because you're like, I need a new mission in life. A lot of us trying to find ourselves. You had found yourself and then realized maybe I didn't.
Yeah, that's I was gonna say the same thing. That's a great way to put it.
That happens to many of us. Right? I was real estate agent, big investor dude, and I was like, I got this. Like, this is the thing that's invigorating me. And then same thing. At some point, I was like, this ain't working. Like,
Yeah.
financially, yeah. Everything else, no. And that's why I turned my corner. You found your new path. I'm finding my new path.
Yeah, and you and I both know people that are still there and hate what
Hmm.
they do and feel trapped there. I think we feel trapped in those moments.
It's scary and hard. It's easier to throw yourself back into something that's not right
Correct.
and go and run
Correct.
than to sit with yourself and not do because
Yep.
you're so used to doing, right? You're so used to doing, you're so used to going, you're so used to creating, and you're so used to doing the outside world too. If we're talking about that angle, what I can do, especially when we built businesses, and now you're taking a step back and you're not doing. You may be sitting in front of your pond for a little while. You're not being lazy. You're being with yourself and figuring some things out. It's different.
Yep.
You may be working on your body, working out more, your relationships. the other three categories, the other 75% that you ignored. But it's hard. I'm finding it hard. I'm finding it very invigorating and awesome. But there are times when it's like I have this like I should be going now. I should go. Like I'm at the gate. I should just let's go. I can go. But luckily, I'm just gonna name her. I got Lane in my head. She's been named this podcast a lot, telling me slow down and let it happen. She has permanent residence up there. She doesn't even have to pay rent. She's just there in my head at this point.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It is
We'll
what it.
we'll, we'll find out at some point.
That's right.
Maybe it might be just a long term game for her. Right now, she's like just burrowing in there, and then she's just gonna it's gonna be bad. But yeah, but the more and more time it was really hard in the first couple weeks, but the more and more time I let it breathe, the more and more happy I'm feeling and sense of joy and those instances of joy and just happiness in the moment
I,
rather than just running.
I do think there's a lie that we tell ourselves early on. We just don't know that it is at the moment. That I'm 20 some years old. I found this is what I'm doing for my life and blah, blah, blah. We go to college for these things. But that's a lie for many people. And I think in our day and age, it's probably even more of a lie. No one's in a job for 40, 50 years anymore. It's just, it's not the reality we live in. That at some point you're going to have to recreate yourself. It might be still rooted somehow in what you believe is to be true, but but the avenue that it unfolds on will more than likely be very different because you have how many years ahead of you at that point. We don't live till more live until 90, 100 years old. You're more than likely going to change paths at some point, and that's okay.
It is. That's important that you said that last part. I love it. That you're given permission. Yes, we shouldn't need your permission. We should have our own. But in the beginning, we need someone else's permission.
Yeah.
Eventually, we build our own permission. But I know you and Aaron had to do that with even me a few times. Like, give me permission. I'm like, cool. I'm ready to go now. They said it's cool. It's good. And Lane had to give me permission for some things, and now like I'm giving myself permission. You made an interesting point about working for 40 to 50 years in the same job, and the fact that we move around now and we create ourselves more often. I wonder, this is coming just out of nowhere right now at this point, those people that worked for 40, 50 years in the past at the same job, did they really know themselves, and was that job part of it, or were they better at the job is not associated with who they actually are, or we associate our job with who we are these days?
That's a very philosophical question.
I'm very deep.
I like that question. I obviously I'm not at that stage, so it's hard to answer that question. But I think that's a very valid question. And did people really like what they did for a job, or were they able to just kind of separate it out, as you said? It paid the bills, it kept the house, it kept the kids going, and was that good enough?
Yeah.
My guess
Mhm.
is it might be somewhere in the middle of all that, but I think that's a valid question.
Yeah, so that just came up based on what you were saying. And I wonder what it's like. I bet it's different for different people. Some people struggle through it. Some people just had their outside lives or is happy enough to make it worthwhile to deal with what's in there. Some people like their jobs. So that'd be my guess. It's the same as today,
Yeah.
where it's
I
a
mean,
myriad.
for me, it was at the end of my time in ministry, it was, can I really do this for another 30 years? And I'm like, hell no, there is no way I can do this for 30 more years.
Mm-hmm.
But in the past, that was the expectation that once you're on that path, you stay on that path. I just don't know if that's a valid expectation. I don't know if it was ever a valid expectation, but I don't think in the age we live, that's ever much of a valid point. Why stay somewhere that you're not happy?
Yeah, it always was the like idea. Like that's a decision that's boom set in stone.
Yes.
But now you're still helping people and impacting lives.
Without the sense of obligation. I think it was the obligation piece. And I don't know, I'm not married. I would bet anyone that's married who's really struggling in their marriage, there is a sense of obligation that comes with it. And I that obligation often got in the way of me making the decision to leave.
I wonder how often that happens to other people in their decisions in life. How often do obligations to ourselves, other
Yeah,
people, or ourselves, we made to ourselves, get in the way of our happy?
yeah, because 'cause I'm obligated, but that's all about the expectation of someone other than yourself.
Yeah. Or the unrealistic expectations you put on yourself.
Correct. I'm not sure they're ever realistic, but yes.
Yeah. I get you could also bring that back to societal things where like you were in a position where societally it's this is you make this decision, you're stuck with that. Like you're staying there. Don't care how unhappy you are.
Yeah.
So that is I guess that still is expectations of others versus expectations of yourself. You still want to serve, you still want to help people, you're still in service, but in a different way. And you're happier.
Yeah, and I think it will always be about well, 2 things for me, service as well as education in many ways. I taught for years, I still love education. Those 2 things probably will always be at the heart of who I am.
Your core values don't change too much. And the hard part is most of us don't know our core values. You ran us through a core value exercise when we were in coaching.
Mhm.
You have an idea, right? It's like in there, like how you act, but we don't have words to it. It's what your core values are. And once you realize kind of what they really are, and then you can hold decisions to them, I found it made it a lot easier when you guys brought us through that.
Mm.
Like mine was generosity, authenticity, and adventure and growth. And knowing that, now I know I'm in a situation where I'm building something and generosity isn't first, it's not gonna work for me. It's not gonna sit well. Like I was building a coaching program and the person that was helping me build it was all about how do we monetize, and not how do we give first. How do we help?
Right.
And that tore me up inside, which is why I'm not in the other coaching program right now, the short-term rental one. Because it just the hard part too is because it's not generosity, it also played on another core value of authenticity, which is being not authentic myself or who I am. So two core values are out of line. And if your core values are out of line, the people out there listening, I don't know if you know yours, don't know yours, but you'll get this feeling. And if you do it for too long, just get this weight or sadness while you're doing what you're doing. It's heavy, it's very heavy because it's outside of what you actually internally, subconsciously, heart, soul want to do. They hit that right, Marty?
Yeah, and 2 things. One is if someone is listening and isn't sure, I would happily send them our exercise on finding core values. So we could easily help them. You and I can both easily help them with that. The
Yeah.
second thing then is how do I be open to the interpretation of what that value is? I thought of that with something like adventure. Well, I might not be going out and climbing the highest mountain in the world, which might be considered an adventure. But is there a sense of adventure to even what you're doing in your life now? I would say more than likely for you that is because there's still a lot of unknowns. And when there's unknowns, there's adventure because we're still exploring and trying to understand how things are working. So I think it's also being open to the interpretation of what that value is.
Yeah, it's not a textbook dictionary definition of adventure.
Correct.
My adventure is pretty well linked with fun
Yes.
and childhood. I'm a big kid and I want to have adventure and fun and stay a big kid. So all those things kind of link together. So my adventure, yes, I do scuba dive. Yes, I climb mountains. Not climb them, I walk up hills. I don't actually. The adventure part of it is just seeing new places, having new experiences, just having fun with friends and just being. That's the adventure and fun part of my adventure. It's not skydiving or anything like that. Like, nope, I'm not
But
jumping out of a plane.
and it could be.
Yes, but it's not for me. Like,
Right.
that's my version of adventure.
Right. Yeah, I'm much more about going out, sometimes even just driving around, especially being new out here. Just driving around can be an adventure at times,
Yeah.
and seeing new places and new people.
finding a new place to play a game or have a drink or eat some
Yeah.
food.
Or I went kayaking a couple times in May before it got too hot, and going and doing stuff like that.
Still adventure. People, yeah, some people think it's that was like my too. Like adventure must be some daredevil thing. It's not. It's whatever
Yeah.
you make it.
Yes. Yep.
Just like any of the other words. If anyone gets the value thing from Marty, or with Marty's permission, I'll send it out too with my chat prompt for GPT. Just remember, like it's yours. It's your word.
Yeah, for me, it would also be very much something like adventure, because that adventure would be one of mine. Is also curiosity. Like there's a curiosity that come. I think like you had said, taking a kid. There are times where I've traveled up your way to Maine, and I used to love just sitting on the mountain and watching families come through, and the kids are like picking the blueberries, and there's such a sense of wonder and curiosity that kids bring that is very much a part of adventure as well.
Oh God, yeah, the curiosity that we lose somewhat because we just again, it's our brains again. Sometimes our brains can be evil.
Because I'm
We
in a hurry to be an adult.
Yeah, and we realize we trained our brain to look at something and come up with the most possible outcome for it. So like that's probably
Yeah,
that. On to the next.
the logical answer.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be? Do you remember that like unbridled like sense of a kid when you just find something like a salamander or something, and I like got it in my little red wagon to show my parents with some
Yeah,
dirt and stuff like that. It's like, look what I found. So cool.
I've
Being
seen
able to
that.
tap into that again.
Yeah, I've
But
seen that with my nieces and nephews. It's just that's why it's great being around kids.
it kind of segues into something that I love that you guys taught me, and I haven't really brought it up on here too much because it's yours. The pain and joy scale, where if you take away the pain, you also take away the joy,
Yeah,
and that's something that I had a big problem with. And I think that's something kind of that fits right in what we're talking about now, right? You're taking away that curiosity and fun because you've taken away the pain. So you're just in robot mode.
yep, yeah. Anything to avoid the pain.
And we don't I never realized, I never put really together because I was like, I'm even keel, like you can't make me feel mad or anything. I'm good. Well, when you guys explained it, I was like, mine exploded. No, Jason, you just shut yourself off from feeling pain because you didn't want to feel pain. And by every notch you say each side's a scale of 0 to 10, every notch you go down on one side to 9, the other guy's side goes to 9. You're going to feel 9 of happiness, 8, 7, 6.
Yep.
And I was like, man,
Yeah, and so what you described it as even keel, but you're essentially dead at that point. You're like flatline.
emotionally,
Yeah,
yeah. Nothing makes you happy, nothing makes you sad.
correct.
So you may look at it and be like, cool, nothing makes me sad, but no joy or happiness is much worse than no sadness in my mind for someone who's lived with that.
And I definitely think, well, I think it's a lot of us, but definitely kids that grow up in more volatile situations, they train themselves to be that way because that's where it's safe.
Yeah. And then that goes back to many of the things you are now come from things that happened in childhood.
Most things.
That's a subject I'm not great at. You guys are much better at talking through that than I am.
And that was a common exercise, I guess, for lack of better terms, even when I was in formation for ministry, is family of origin. It's so tied into not only emotionally, but how we view power and authority and relationship. Like everything, because we've watched and we've learned to imitate the adults around us when we're kids.
A lot of it ends up in our subconscious. We don't
Yeah,
realize
yeah.
it.
Yep. And
And some,
more often than not, it comes down to how do I protect myself as a child, keep myself safe.
yeah, and some could be good traits for the parents, but when the kid internalizes them, he takes them too far and it becomes something that hurts them
Yep.
because they've just taken it to the next level or it's not right within them and it causes problems later on down the line.
Yeah, and to a point in life, it works. It gets you through. Whenever that We have just done a podcast on midlife crisis. At some point, all those things no longer work, and it starts to break down, and that becomes in many for many people a midlife crisis. And it's then, what do I do with all of this when I have these systems that no longer work for me? That's when you have the opportunity to recreate yourself.
Yeah, I can look at it one of two ways. I can say, I spent my whole life creating these systems that are now useless. What the hell was I doing? Or I have an entire new avenue. Like I have a blank slate. Let's create what makes me happy.
Yes, exactly.
Gap in the game. Gap in the game.
Yep.
Basically.
I'll just keep going and doing what I've been doing and suck it up.
Oh, that ends well. Trust me, that ends great.
Right.
That ends in a breakdown
Correct. Break down,
because
break through.
yeah. Well, you're gonna your mind lets you push through,
Yeah.
but your body will eventually stop you.
Yeah.
It gives you warning signs, and then it says, "Cut the crap," and then it says, "All right, fine. I'm just
I'll
gonna
show,
shut you down.
I'll
Now
show
you
you.
can't think straight. Now I'm gonna mess with all your emotions.
That,
This is gonna be great. Have fun."
that, that was definitely me. And I remember I had a spiritual director at the time, a woman in Ohio, and I had called her after I left, and she's like, I knew it would eventually be this. I knew your body would shut down. I'm like, well, thanks for letting me know ahead of time.
They just watched it. It happened to me a while ago. It's a couple friends. They were watching me do it, and they're like, but they knew it had to happen. They're like, we're just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, and
Because we knew you were there.
if you're in denial that it's even happening, nothing,
Hmm.
they could approach you all they want. Nothing's going to change
No.
because I don't want to admit there's a problem.
Yeah, mine was, you know what, just a little, I can push through a little bit more. I can push through a little bit more. The other side there, I see the end of the tunnel, but let me just push a little more. Let me push a little more. And I was way past where I should have been at that point in time. And it just finally, my body's like, no. It's not like my body like shut down like I was a dummy on the floor. I had no muscle movement, but
Right.
it's more emotional, mental, and stuff like that, where all of that stuff doesn't work as well anymore.
The way I've described it from my own life was there were times where the opportunity had arisen and I had kind of fallen off the cliff, but I was so close enough to the cliff that I could get back on. That when I finally did have to leave, I had fallen so far off the cliff that there was no going back. It just wasn't going to happen. But I think we're given, I can look back and say the opportunity was there many times for me to say, all right, I got to do something. But it wasn't until I finally fell so far off the cliff that I couldn't go back.
Yeah. And if your friends were there to grab your hand, you wouldn't actually learn the lesson you should have learned.
But you're going to learn it when you learn it. That's all
Yeah.
of us.
So we're saying your body will shut down. I don't even know how to describe kind of what happens. If everyone's out there's been through it, you understand what we're saying. If you have
Yes.
not, you will if you push yourself too far. If you don't ever know what we're talking about, better on you. You did a better job at navigating your happiness in your life and everything else in your life and didn't just push through things like we do.
Or you're still in denial.
But you're still in denial. And then it'll happen.
Then we'll welcome you to the club.
And then once you get through it and become out the other side, you can come on the podcast.
That's
You can be a
right.
guest.
You could be the Empire Expander.
Yes. No, you do not have to go through a massive breakdown to be an empire expander, guys and gals out there. Just that's a joke. But this world is for, or this community is for people that are struggling. And we want to help you not struggle and not get to the point where Marty and I got to where your body shuts down. And you just have to take a break.
Do you mean there's a better way?
Is that Marty? That's not the way I'm supposed to be doing shit.
It's so hard to say because everyone has to come to it themselves. And there's just no one way.
Well, you have to figure out how to fill up your cup and how to make your how to make how to bring down the levels, right? Because you get those indicators that you're burning out, and for most of us, we can't just stop working or work less, and then it'll go down at a rapid pace. It'll tick down slowly. You have to do something that invigorates you that will bring it down at a rapid pace. So whatever that is, whether it's going away on like I know Ashley was on here. She's an introvert coach, and occasionally she'll just go away for a 3-day weekend by herself, not even with her guy that she's been with for a long time, or anything like that. Just me. and
Just
that
hard.
fills the batteries entirely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to get away on small vacations and stuff like that with my wife, just away from the day to day, fills the batteries up.
Yeah.
But it could be as simple as sitting outside for an hour for the day, or might even talk to me about taking an afternoon walk. Just get away from things.
Yep.
Leave the phone here. Just get away from things.
Yep. Or just like closing your eyes for 10 minutes. Sometimes that's all I have to do is kind of shut everything off.
Yep.
I don't need to sleep. I just need to shut my eyes.
But the first key is figuring out your indicators of it's going too far.
Yeah.
And then, secondly, in my mind is don't think you can push through it. You can't. And then third is finding out how do you alleviate that and fill the cup back up so you're ready to be able to handle those things again.
Yep.
And it is not a loss. It is not you giving up. It's not any of those things by saying I need some time. I think that's a misconception that people have. It's I need some time. I can't go at this pace.
Yeah. It's creating a boundary for yourself, a boundary, which is self love, but it is about creating a boundary.
Yeah. Out of all the people in people's lives, who's the hardest on you typically?
You.
Yeah. Yep. We're the hardest on ourselves, and we'll learn to create boundaries for the people, right? Like I have my time. Don't call me
Yeah.
past 7. This is family
Yeah.
time. I have all that stuff in my schedule, like family time's in my schedule, craft time's in my schedule, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the boundaries internally with me, those are harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a much
Yeah.
harder time getting out of my own way, Marty.
It's so you're so close to yourself that it's hard.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's easy.
No, not at all. So Marty, I didn't realize this, but we've already gone like 50 minutes.
Did we
on this
go over?
podcast. What's that?
Well, we weren't shut down, so that's good.
Yeah. So I try to keep it under an hour, but I need to get you back on the podcast too because we didn't even talk visionary integrator and how an integrator can kind of work through the integrator, which is a mind-based thing typically,
Yeah.
and still stay centered with the spiritual aspect of things and all the things we talked about today. Because that's a really important piece, I believe, because when we think integrated, we think mental gymnastics.
Yeah, and you don't want to be trapped there all the time.
Mm-hmm. So that's not a 5-minute conversation, though. That's like another hour conversation. Are you okay if I have you back on and mobilize your time some more?
I'll gladly come back on.
You heard that? We got Marty. He's going to be a regular guest. Every 3 days, he'll be on.
Every 3 days.
Yeah, Aaron's going to be like, don't wait, whose podcast are you on? Like, what do you co-host? Mine or his? So 2 questions, and let's end this up. First one, you've distilled a lot of information. You have a lot of knowledge. You coach people in how to get out of their own way. I need you to dial it all down and pick one piece out of that and say, of all the, if someone's out there that's struggling right now to get going, having issues where they're at right now, things we talked about, what's the one thing out of everything we talked about today that you would say, this is my one piece of advice?
I think the easiest answer is one of the difficult ones we talked about was ask for help. Like there's no harm in asking for help, whether that's you or me or someone else, someone that you trust. There's something freeing about being able to tell your story to someone that just listens to it and hears you out, and you can start creating the space to sort through what's next. So ask for help, I think, is the most important thing.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, I always give you how to find me on Facebook. I will give you how to find him. But I am here. I'm not just saying that as a podcast host, not guest. I'm the host.
Maybe you're both.
Sometimes I feel like I'm being interviewed. I don't know. But I'm not just saying that. Like, if you need help reach out to me. I don't even have a coaching program or anything right now. I'm not going to charge you for anything. Just let me help you if you need help. So if you need to find me, find Jason Regan on Facebook. I'm the dude with scuba diving. I don't think I have Jason Regan, the scuba diver, right now in that picture from Massachusetts. Send me a direct message. If I don't answer, send me another one. You're not bothering me. It just means I missed it, and I will feel bad that I did not answer you the first time. Please, if you do need help, send me a message. Marty, Where can they find you, man?
Instagram and Facebook probably are the two you'll find me the most, and that's at Marty Nocchi. It's my name.
Cool. Want to plug your podcast?
What's that?
Want to plug your podcast?
Yeah, podcast is Get Out of Your Own Way. I'm not on all the time, but I'm on often. We just said 2 weeks in a row where I've been on. I love doing it. I love having the opportunity to help people get out of their own way. So yeah, Get Out of Your Own Way is the show name.
It is good. I'm on one of those episodes. If you can find me, they did a private coaching session, so you can actually see me being coached by my coach, not Marty. Aaron, who's the other coach in
That seems like a long. That was a while ago? It seems like
it was a while ago.
Yeah,
that was probably different. That was a different version of me at that point in time. So, Marty, I appreciate you. This was a great conversation. Thanks for coming on. Everyone out there, we'll talk to y'all soon.
Thanks for hanging out with me today on Empire Expanders. Don't forget to subscribe and follow my social media channels for more insightful fun. Also, explore the links in the show notes. If you've enjoyed what you heard, giving us a 5-star rating would really help us out and be appreciated. Stay tuned for more on Empire Expanders.